What's up?
Hey Ryan, how are you?
One sec. All right, now I can hear you.
All right, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us today. I know you're a couple hours behind us, right? So thanks a lot for getting up and making time for us. We're excited to have you on this today. We're gonna go. I've got my list of topics, and I think it's very similar to what you went through on your interview with GC the other day. And then I'm going to talk a lot about mentorship and how you got started, and then of course your book and what it is that you're trying to the message you're trying to send across. And then I was going to focus on just some of the market data, just current market, how it's affecting you, have the rates affected you, how you're adapting to it, what your crystal ball predictions are for next year, and then probably end talking about family, talking about your whys, with your wife, how she's your partner, how she's just an integral part of your business. And I'm going to end on asking you, would you be here today if she never entered your life?
Sounds good. Let's
All
do
right,
it.
awesome. All right, let's go. Are we ready to go? Are we live? All right. Hey, everybody. So super excited today. We have the great Ryan Pineda on our Apartment Rockstar podcast. And I've been following Ryan for a little bit here. I think my first mentors were, watching Gary Vee back in 2016, spending a few dollars to go visit with him up in his offices, and that was an amazing experience. And then, of course, visiting with GC, bringing my two boys with me because it is a family business for me, and meeting GC and telling him, hey, that guy's going to be a billionaire one day, guys, so you need to shake hands with the billionaire. And from that point on, it's like I've struggled who to find to help motivate me, who I feel a relationship with, who I feel somebody who's in a similar scope. And I found a couple guys. I've really started to watch Alex Hormozy and Ryan Pineda. Ryan, I'm so excited to have you on our show today, man. It is an absolute honor.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate the compliment.
Yes, absolutely. So I think for a lot of guys, because again, I'm at that level where I can see you being that next guy that's going to come up and fill that gap, fill that void. Jesus going on to become a future billionaire, and there's going to be a gap there, and I can see the different people that are coming in and filling that gap. So thank you for being there for me, and I know a lot of the guys that I talk to watch your stuff, and I want to go into your education because I want to learn more about that myself, because I think you've really learned how to take advantage of social media and by watching others and then putting your own spin on it as well. But first, I want to get everybody, for people who don't know and are still kind of learning your story. Can we go back a little bit in time? Can we hear some of your early years, where you were the formative? I know you got one book out already, and you've got another one we're gonna be talking about a little later. But let's go into some of that introduction into the book. Like, how did you get into real estate? Is real estate a part of your family? Where did this happen?
Yeah, I started out as a pro baseball player. I got drafted by the Oakland A's in 2010. And so real estate wasn't really on the radar. I just wanted to get to the big leagues and make some money and have fun hitting balls. But during that time I was in the minor leagues, and you don't make money in the minor leagues. I was making $1,200 a month. For the math, we only worked 6 months of the year. So I was making about $7,000 a year playing minor league baseball. And so I had to get a job. The only problem was there's not really a lot of jobs you can just go leave every 6 months. So I kind of was just forced into real estate. My mom had been a realtor, and I didn't really like what she did, but I was like, I'll become a realtor, and I'll just do it in the off season. And so, I started selling real estate in 2010, realized that I did not like being a realtor. I wasn't good at just like having clients and dealing with people. And I got really mad that they wouldn't buy good deals that I was finding. And so I just kind of gave real estate up, and I started doing side hustles. I was, being a substitute teacher. I was flipping couches. I was doing all these things. And eventually God led me back to real estate in 2015, and I got into house flipping. And, with house flipping, it was the first time I was really ever successful in real estate. I had to risk everything. I maxed out my credit cards. I did everything. You mentioned my wife. I maxed out her credit cards. We were all in, you know, and thankfully the first house flip went really well. We made 25 grand, and I just kept rolling that profit back into other deals. And, one became two, two became 10, 10 became 20. And eventually we were doing around 100 deals a year in no time. And then all of that success flipping houses kind of led to a lot of the things that you see today on social media.
That's just an amazing story, right? I know there's a lot of guys that are in your situation, right? How old are you today, if you don't mind me asking?
33.
33. Okay. So in your 20s, right? Like a lot of guys, you either go that traditional route, you go to college, you go to get a corporate job like I did, and you find out it was really until 33 when I found real estate. But with you kind of went through finding yourself in your 20s and kind of finding out what it is you wanted to do. And then and I know your mom was a realtor, but that really wasn't what pushed you towards doing that. How did you decide, hey, I'm going to do this house? Because look, we all know that first one is the most important one. You get that wrong, you get that one wrong, and it could potentially derail the future success you're going to have, right? You're going to lose your wife's support. You're going to lose your own self-confidence. It's not going to be there. How did you get that first one right?
Well, having been a realtor for, I guess, 5 years at that point, because I kept my license, I understood how to analyze deals. So that wasn't a problem. I also was good at finding deals. I mean, my entire life, I was always good at finding deals on freaking anything. Like if there was a sale and trying to buy this camera, I would find the best deal on buying this camera. But I didn't have money. And I was just like, well, you can't flip house without money. So I'm kind of stuck. I didn't know anyone with money. And, I was unaware of things like hard money loans and other things. So I was always kind of agnostic when it came to business. I'm just like, dude, whatever makes money, I'll figure out how to do it. And so, the reason I got back into house flipping, I got into house flipping was because I was just praying one day. My wife and I were on our 1-year anniversary, and, couch flipping was going well. And I just remember praying to God. I was like, God, couch flipping is great. I'm glad that like my family is provided for. I'm glad that I still get to play baseball. Like I'm very grateful for where my life is today. I'm still married after 1 year, like getting married young. This is great. But I know that this isn't like my purpose. What am I supposed to do the rest of my life? I'm 20 at that time, 25 years old. Like, what am I doing? And, I remember him telling me that, hey, look back into this real estate thing. And I'm like, the real estate thing, like I hated that. That was terrible. And then I saw a TV commercial that same day. It was like, you want to learn how to flip houses with no money and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, that's such a scam. I'm not going to do that. And I just felt the Holy Spirit like pushing me towards looking more into it. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to just like, and I just Googled it. Can you flip houses with no money? I'd never Googled this in my life, by the way, for 5 years of being a realtor. But I was like, is it really true? And all of a sudden, this website called Bigger Pockets pops up. At the time, there was no big YouTube or Instagram or things like these people telling you how to do it. It was like, I don't know if this is legit or not. And, I started reading about these things, hard money loans and private loans and wholesaling. And I'm like, what? They don't teach you this in realtor school. Nobody ever told me this. And from there, I was like, well, I know I can do this. I was like, this is easy. And I kind of go into everything thinking that. I'm like, oh, I'm facing, a future Cy Young winner. Like, this is easy. I'm going to get a hit off him. I want to go make videos and go viral on social media. I have no followers or no subscribers on YouTube. This would be easy. I'm going to do it. So I've kind of always had that attitude of just like blind confidence. And I guess as an entrepreneur, you need to have a very high degree of that because your odds of failure are tremendous. And so if you just go by the odds and the likelihood of your success in the world's terms and statistics terms, then you probably will fail. But, I just kind of went into it. I'm like, I'm going to win. This is going to happen. And I'm willing to bet everything on it. I'll max out my credit cards. I'll do everything. And look, what's the worst case that can happen? I mean, I go bankrupt at 25 and I rebuild. Like, to me, it wasn't really a risk. And so I did it. And, the rest is history, man.
Man, well, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's really powerful. I was just sitting there, just like trying to put myself in your shoes. I always like to think, what is it that separates that 1% from everybody else? That group that got to the next level. And I always want to say, it's a heart. They all have that commonality. It's heart. They just want it more than everybody else. But with you, clearly, it's more than that. It's faith. You have
Oh yeah.
you have faith in Christ, and you have faith in yourself, and believing that He's not going to let you down the wrong way. And
Hmm.
I think that's amazing. I thank you for sharing that with me. So just so you didn't get your real estate knowledge from just your background as a realtor, you did go to some sort of education. You did have some paid mentorship.
Yep. Well, when I first started, all I had was my realtor's license. I was too dumb to get a mentor. I didn't realize like, oh, maybe if I want to be a good realtor, I could actually just go get a good mentor. And then when I started flipping houses, I mean, the only thing I had was bigger pockets at the time.
Yeah.
Once again, I wasn't smart enough to be like, well, I should go get a mentor or a coach. And, also too, I was just still kind of in like the poor mindset of like, I'm not paying for that. I'll just get it for free.
Yeah.
And, I, in spite of my approach, I succeeded, not because of my approach. And, I think today it's now very different with how I choose to live my life and learn things and execute. Like literally, Monday and Tuesday, I had my business consultant, my business coach in, and we were planning for 2023. And like, this guy's, I've paid him 50 grand to come out for the next, like these last 2 days. And then he's coming back later this month to make sure we execute what we are going to execute. And, yeah, I mean, like you got to have these things. I succeeded despite that, but I wouldn't advise people do that.
No, I love that. I like to always say that, because I had similar background. I had to join a real estate club back in '07, January, right before the recession, getting into that whole situation there. And that $10,000 that I paid for that club was like all the money in the world then, but it changed my life, and that's where I was kind of go with you, did you spend money to join a club? Did you pay for something that turned into what you have today? Did you have that defining moment?
I think the defining moment for me was, I mean, I've had multiple defining moments in my career. So, the first true defining moment for me was when I was flipping couches, like the first taste of entrepreneurial success, where I was like, I have this idea that I think can work. Let me go test it out. And then it did work. And I was like, wow, I wonder what would happen if I do this more. And so
Mm.
started flipping more. And then I like built a business. I'm like, wow, like I did that from just an idea. That was crazy. And, another light bulb moment for me was like what I said earlier, when just, I was like, wow, I can flip houses. I don't need all this money. There's all these other ways you could do this. And so that was a light bulb moment. Another light bulb moment for me was, when I actually did start paying for mentorship, like you said. For years, I was too, I would say, prideful to do it,
Mm.
because I'm like, well, I'll figure it out, whatever. And in 2018, the first year that I actually started paying for mentorship, that was the first year I did over 100 deals. I started new companies because it was just the influence of the things I was learning from these guys. So that was huge. Another one was my business coach. Like I said, I hired him for the first time in 2020, right before the pandemic. Good timing by me, figuring out how to build a business the right way, and then kind of re-bringing him in again right now because of this new phase of business we're going on. I had a light bulb moment with social media back in 2020 as well, where I was like, well, I think this thing is going to be a lot bigger than people realize. And, it ended up working out great. So, I can point back to definitely like really big moments in my career. And, I think those are what define you.
That's awesome. You said a couple of really good points there, and they're great segues into my next section, and that's scaling the business. If I wish I could go back in time and have just put some thought into like where this could go, and instead what I did, Ryan, was I just pretty much was like a horse with blinders on, and I went in that same direction. The way the real estate club taught me is the way I went. So they
Mhm.
never expected anybody to get to 5,000 apartment units and be a solo GP. It was like, hey, you're going to get to 1,000 units, retire yourself, and you're done. You're off into the sunset. But I would have been in my late 30s, early 40s, right? What do? I wish I had some knowledge on how to scale my business, how to have different companies that offshoot, and watching you recently talk to Grant, it was like that Shark Tank moment where you see Mark Cuban always wanting to grab something that can be a compliment. And you mentioned Brandon and Grant talking about how they're meeting together, which they push that a lot, how they're just gonna put all these businesses together. And I see you doing the same, right? Like let's talk a little bit about the different business channels you have and where all that came from, and like how that the inspiration for that, because you went from house flipping, and then now you have like a social media uh, part of your education, right? Where you can create content. And I've got a buddy of mine, Ellis, who lives in San Diego. I know he went to come visit with you, and I
Yep.
know he was blown away. And I started watching his stuff, right? And it
He's way
changed
better
him. Like,
now,
yeah,
right?
it's way better now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. How did you decide to scale into different channels?
Yeah. I see like on the attendees, my guy Grant's in there as well. He came to golf with me, and that's the
Nice.
thing, right? Like at the end of the day, I want to impact people with what I do. I don't want to just be a talking head entertainer guy. It's like, no, if you listen to what I have to say, I want you to be able to take what you learn and change your life. But as far as well, just all the companies in general,
Like, how many do you have? How many companies do you have?
there's 10 right now, that I've started from scratch.
Are they
And,
all seven-figure revenue type companies?
um,
Plus?
well, some of them are recent, but yeah, 7 or 8 of them are now over 7 figures. So
Wow.
yeah, they're doing great. And I mean, to do startups in that way is extremely hard, and also to be high margin businesses as well. These aren't just like e-com brands where you're running a 5-10% margin on a product and you sell $1 million of it. Like, this is real money. So like, I've started those all from just like seeing opportunities. It's not like I went out looking to set since we're talking about the social media companies called Content Empire. And it wasn't like I was like, yeah, I'm going to go train people how to do social media. It was like, no, 2.5 years ago, I decided to do social media. And in the years since, everybody has always asked me, how do you do it? And I've always said, hey, I just don't have the capacity to, tell you how to do it. Also, too, I'm still learning a lot of things before I really feel like a master at this. And then finally, I was like, okay, I definitely can create the curriculum and the framework. I have the pieces in place. I know exactly how this will work. Let's launch it. And so, that business will be our quickest business to 7 figures. That's one that's not currently, but I mean, like, I think in the first month we did like almost $500,000.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
it's yeah, and we're not even running ads or anything yet. It's just purely organic from people knowing that they need it. And also too, I think timing of the marketplace, right? Like 2.5 years ago, people did not believe TikTok and social media would be as important as they do believe it is today. And I think that in the years to come, people will realize it even more. So timing wise, the company makes a lot of sense. But with just starting businesses, it's always been about opportunity. It's not about like, I just had this vision to do it. It's just like, I see this, it's a need, it solves a problem, I have the resources, let's roll. But to Grant's point, like you were bringing up in my podcast and you brought up Hormozy, I'm not dumb. I look at what other people do, right? And so I see Grant going out and acquiring businesses. I see Hormozy going out and acquiring businesses. I see myself starting all the businesses, which is 10 times harder. And it's one of those things where it's like, back to what I said before, I've succeeded in spite of potentially doing the wrong things, even though they look like the right things. That was one of the things that my business coach and I were talking about this week, was like, look, Ryan, for you to scale to the next level, and what you are currently building is an acquisitions company. We have to grow the parent brand and just have the best C-suite ever, so that you can acquire any company that you want that fits into what you want to do and your purpose. And, it's got enough upside. and be able to plug and play them into your ecosystem, plug and play them into your processes. And from there, just go scale them to the moon. And that's what Hormozy does. That's what Grant is talking about doing. And that is one big shift that we're making in 2023. I think that I'll still start businesses because I love it. I love startups and, the branding and just creating it, the idea to monetization. But acquisitions is something I've never done, but we will be doing a lot of in 2023.
That's awesome, man. That's really, really amazing. Have you hit the point right now? I'm trying to see in comparison, right? Have you hit the point now where you have people that you started the business with that were in certain roles, important roles, and then at some point you realize, wow, the business just kind of outpaced them, or they couldn't keep up. It's not that they didn't want to; they're just, they were the wrong chess piece. They were right at that time 4 years ago, 2 years ago, and then how have you dealt with that, right? Because what's occurred with me is like I had this core group for a long time. And then almost like 2 years ago, they are sort of falling out to where today it's like, man, when they say that expression is lonely at the top, I'm kind of going through that, right? Because all those people that were with me in the beginning and had all that knowledge and those stories, with me aren't there anymore. So have you come to that point yet? And if you have, or, how have you avoided that?
You can't avoid it. It just comes with growth, right? And so, yeah, we're going through that right now. We've gone through it as time has gone on. It becomes a point where, can these people still stay in and support the vision, but just in a smaller capacity? And, I think that the good thing with a lot of those people is, we've developed such great friendships over the years, and they have most certainly been responsible for helping me get to this point.
Yeah.
But they're also aware enough to know they're not the person to get to the next point, and they're fine running, what it is they're meant to run at this point. The beauty of, I guess, what we're doing with lots of different companies is, those kinds of guys can run that business unit, and, they're the guys for that business unit. They're not the guys for the parent company, which is fine. But, those people at that level are new people that had to have been brought in who have that drive and who understand exactly where we're going. And so, yeah, it's always a talent acquisition thing to get to the next level. Can you find enough talented people? Do they align with you? Can you offer them something that aligns with their purpose? Because why else would they want to hitch themselves to your wagon? And I think that we have a great group that's really ready to do something that is going to be really crazy.
I think you hit it right on the head, and that's something that I did not have that ability. I did not have that knowledge, where I only had one business. And so when the business started to outscale them, where were they going to go? And there was an expression we used to have back in 2016, that not everybody's going to make it to 5,000. And we had maybe 2,000 units at that time. And I never imagined that it would have been everybody. I thought it would have been this person. My original head of maintenance, could handle 1,000, 2,000 units, can't handle 3,000. It's just too much organization, whatever. And you have to bring the people in. I think the fact that you've been able to scale into other business units, as you mentioned, and give them a chance to start that up, using that, or what got them there was heart, right? You surround yourself with heart, people that are going to try and give you their very best effort, give them that business to kind of start up with. I think could have, in my case, definitely could have kept more people here, and they're still in the business. You still keep the culture, because what happens is once you lose people, you start losing culture. You don't realize that. You lose culture here, culture there, and then next thing you know, what is your culture?
Well, and we're even struggling with that now, right? Like core values wise, everyone has the same core values, but that is different than culture. And so the further I ascend away from the businesses, because I'm not dealing with these guys on a day-to-day basis, it gets harder to maintain the original culture that I set there, right? Because I'm just not there, right? And so it becomes really important for me to get the right business leaders to execute and have my culture flow through them, right? And that has been harder as we've gotten bigger, and it's just part of growing pains. But now it's not even that, where it was like, okay, Ryan is here, and you got all these businesses here. Now it's like Ryan is here, the C-suite is here, and they're responsible for talking to the business unit leaders here. So now it's even another level removed. And so we have to do things that really promote culture, because people don't realize how important that is.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned that lesson for sure. I want to ask one last question on this, and I want to get into your book because I want to hear more about it. You
Yeah.
know, with you mentioned your C-suite. Are any of your original team part of that C-suite? I'm sorry, C-suite, excuse me. Or anybody original team? Is there somebody that's the COO, or there's somebody that's the CFO? Is there anybody there, or did you bring outside people? And I'm asking this, right, because with me, I try to grow them from within, and and then when they hit a certain point, oh, you know, I'm gonna bring somebody from the outside that has a resume, and I fell in love with a resume instead of just being a little bit more loyal to the heart that got me there, and say, you know what,
Yeah.
maybe we'll go a little slower, but we'll figure it out. You know, and I watched, you know, GC, you know, he put so much into Jared, and Jared's taken off on that part of the business, but he also brought in Sherry, and now he's got, you know, Brandon, and you're like, wow, okay, now he's got Gary on the other side, right? So you're watching all these, like, you know, he does have to bring in other people. So how have you managed that?
It's been a blend. And you know, we just started our parent company earlier this year, and we didn't really kind of know how to run it or anything, or that we were going for acquisitions, right? It was really to just support the existing companies. But yeah, to the point of, you know, who from the beginning years ago is in that level, the only person is my sister. And even she just got switched this week. You know, she has been the COO of, you know, basically that company, handling ops and everything, but she just got moved to CFO. And so, you know, she has enough to the point of, like, she understands she is not the best person for that role anymore, just due to where we are today and where we're going. She's not equipped for it, nor is her personality there. But she's not like, poor me, I'm getting a demotion. She's like, look, I get it. I'm not this person. So, you know, I think everyone, for the most part, has enough self-awareness to know where they stand in the totem pole and where we're going. And there's enough transparency too, where it's like, and I said this in the meeting, you know, to everyone, like, hey, we're here today. This may not be what gets us to the next level, right? We might have to get other people that are going to get us there. And there may be a point where I'm not the CEO, right? Because I'm not the guy who can drive us there, because maybe I'm a pastor later in my life, and I'm like, look, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't know, right? That's not anything close to what I feel today, but, you know, there could come a time, and I have enough self-awareness to know when I'm the bottleneck and when I am the guy holding us back. So I think, you know, it's going well. We have promoted from within. We have brought in external people, and even external people have been people that, you know, have somewhat been internal. You know, like my now COO, his name is Javi. He actually started out in Future Flipper in my coaching program years ago. My CGO was the same way, Brian Davila. He started out in the coaching program. They have both, like, just crushed it in everything they've ever been assigned to do. And now they're at that suite versus just Future Flipper.
Wow, that's amazing. And I'm sorry, these questions, like, I'm at a different point, and maybe a lot of guys are following you, right? Because I'm trying to understand what the hell is going on in my business, right? When, as you grow, you face these growing pains. And I think you hit an important piece that you actually mentioned, because a lot of guys aren't thinking this. They may not be in the business anymore. They may not be like, yeah, you started, you had the spirit of it, you try to keep that going, but there's other roles, you know, there's other parts of your life. Like, this is a phase of your life. And that's what I'm realizing. This is a, you know, that page is now turning. Here's a new chapter. What is this chapter, and where do I fit? You know, I've learned it's not about wearing the horse blinders all the time. You've got to evolve, you know, and you see things, and, you know, you watch others, and you're like, okay, because it's all about eternal happiness. That's what you want. Like, why be here if you can't be happy and passionate about it? And the moment you're not passionate, you got to figure out why, and then see what can make you passionate.
Yep, 1000%.
So let's go into the book, right? So your first book was all about house flipping.
Yep.
What is this next book about? What was your inspiration for this book, and what's the message you're trying to come across?
Yeah. So, you know, my first book was about house flipping, called Flip Your Future. Did really well. I didn't write anything for 4 years. going back to opportunity, right? In the businesses I've started at this point, it was mainly from just getting feedback and seeing and hearing the same things over and over again. For me, demand is a sign of like a product or a business or something that the world needs. And so the one thing I kept hearing over and over again was they were like, Ryan, how do you first off, how do you run all these businesses? Number one. Number two, how are you golfing every Friday and not working on the weekends? How are you serving at your church? How are you staying fit and like just doing all these things? And I'm like, well, there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's not like an easy answer. Like every hour really matters of what you do in order to achieve that. And so I just started coming up with some principles of things that I live by, how I set my goals, and everything that's allowed me to just kind of be this way. And sure enough, I was like, I'm creating this framework, which could be a course, it could be a book, it could be a lot of things, it could be a mastermind, it could be all of that. And I said, you know what, though, I just really want people to like understand this, and so I'm just going to give it all away for free. And so what I ended up doing last year was I created a course called The Wealthy Way. Well, the course is called Wealth Builder Academy, but this way of living is called The Wealthy Way. And basically I released this course very end of last year. It got like 30,000 people went through it. I spent a lot of money to build out a planner software because I didn't like any of the planners out there, and I wanted something that aligned with what I was teaching in the course. And so I created the planner and, had the team or, lots of people use it. And, I just kind of wanted to see how the feedback went this first year of going through it. And, it's been tremendous. It's changed people's lives and it's been great. But now it's time to take it to the next level. Mm-hmm. And so, the book is the first phase of that. Well, that's not even the first phase. The first phase is the podcast. So you would have saw that my podcast got rebranded into The Wealthy Way. Mm-hmm. The second phase is the book. So the book comes out December 13th. You guys can get it at wealthyway.com. And, it's up for pre-order. We're about to put it up for pre-order. And you can get all the courses and planners and everything else free too. It's going to be $1 on Kindle if you just want the ebook. Once again, it's not about making money. It's just getting it into as many hands as possible. And then, phase 3 is we're building out the app for the planner and everything Wealthy Way related. And there's going to be a lot of rebranding of certain businesses to align with the Wealthy Way. And so, there's a lot that's going on. But moral of the story is, the way I see it, and this wasn't really intentional, but if you look at what Grant's got with 10X and the philosophy that he lives by, I live by I understand why 10X is a philosophy, just like I understand why Rich Dad, Poor Dad's a philosophy, the 4-hour work week, like these different ways of living and working. I think the way that I do it's very unique and countercultural to what most people would tell you today, which is like the grind culture of like, hey, you want to get something, you got to outwork everybody, you've got to sacrifice, you've got to do all these things. And I'm like, nah, I don't know, I'm doing pretty good. I didn't necessarily do that. And I think that I'm going to continue to do pretty good and kind of widen the gap just doing it the Wealthy Way. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I just want to teach people how to do it, like what I've been doing.
No, I think everybody's going to really relate to that because you're right. We're in a different society in 2022. We have a workforce that, many of them want to work from home. I've lost people because somebody offered them full-time remote work and it's like, wait, but I want you here. I want to be next to you. I want to see you. Right. So I think being able to work hard, but work smart is important. I remember your combo with with Grant talking about Gary, how they would say, who works harder? Like, if you haven't seen that YouTube video, that is an amazing where they go head to head. It's just nuts how they're just, macho guy over macho guy, right? On who works harder. But I heard, you don't work the weekends. You're golfing on Fridays. Yeah. You've built the nucleus of your empire. And now it's you just have to tinker it and just kind of make it, steer in the right direction. So I think that's an inspiration for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to your priorities, right? For most people, they don't really ask themselves the questions of why do you want to grow your business? Like, what's the point of having 5,000 units? What's the point of making $1 million a year? Like, seriously, like, it's a good goal. I'm not saying it's bad, but like, why? And when you start to really dig into the deeper why you do what you do, it makes you act completely different, and your actions will dictate. Really, I tell people, I'm like, your schedule is a direct reflection of what you prioritize. And so, if you go work 50, 60 hours a week, I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just that you prioritize work. And if you only see your kids for 5 hours a week because you come home late and everything else, like, I mean, that's the comparison. I mean, you don't really value them as much as work. And once again, I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's just is what it is. If you don't go to church at all, you don't read your Bible, you don't pray, it's like, well, you don't value your relationship with God. Nothing, like, there is something wrong with that. But, if it's not wrong to you, like, it's just being aware, right? If you don't spend time working out each week and you don't go to the gym, you are going to be obese and you're going to die sooner. Like, it's not to be grim. It is what it is. And so the sooner we can become aware of our schedule and how we spend our time and what are the most important tasks that we can do in our life that can bring about the maximum value in our lives, it will help us to start really widening the gap in all areas of life and allowing you to really do the things that are important to you. Because unfortunately, what most business people find out is they work really hard for years and then they're like, dang, what happened? Like, I'm divorced, I'm out of shape, can't even enjoy my wealth. I'm, spiritually dead. Like, you start to realize these things until it's too late. So this book is to help people become more aware, really, of what's happening in their lives.
Man, thanks for sharing that. I think that's a lot of great messaging in that. I think we all have to work hard in the beginning, but then you got to get to that point to where, okay, now let's enjoy the other things, right? That I did sacrifice, because priorities do change in life. Priorities in your 20s are different than priorities in your late 20s and then your early 30s. And it looks like you figured that out. You've done so much at 33 already. It's just an inspiration for me at 48 now to see, wow, how fast you can actually go if you find the right roadmap and apply yourself. And then, you're supposed to be able to enjoy your life. Others want to, kick out and grow and grow and grow. And other ones like, I have other priorities in life, and that's okay. Everybody's different. So thank you for being honest and real. And I like your style because that's pretty much your style in all your content. So keeping on the grim theme, how are you going to handle the market next year? Or how has the interest rate climb affected you? I know with me, we have variable rate notes, and it's, we've seen debt service double, and I think I'm not alone. I think there's a healthy percentage of the market that are exposed to that, and I think that's going to create an amazing opportunity next year, because I think you only lose in real estate when you run out of time or you run out of money. And next year may be that year where, double the debt service may catch you if you don't have enough reserves, or you're not operating well, or you run out of time on your note. Has that affected you in your business? And then how are you adapting to it to kind of make 2023 a successful year?
Yeah. So, the interest rates are tough, in all sectors of real estate, right? Real estate and interest rates are highly correlated. And as we're finding out too, tech and the stock market are also highly correlated to interest rates, right? So, at the end of the day, all types of investments are going to have a rougher time going through this period. But just like COVID revealed, right? Those who are able to get through the tough time end up widening the gap. And those who can't, they fall way behind, right? So it's hard to widen the gap when everybody has the wind against their back, right? Because we can make mistakes and we can, not really pay the price for them. In fact, you might benefit from a mistake when the wind's against your back. So, we definitely have, I think I have like 40 flips going on right now. There's definitely going to be flips that lose money, potentially a lot of money on some. We got a bunch that are going to make money. We've got variable notes on some things that we're going to have to figure out what to do with. At the end of the day, it's no different than the normal problems that we face. I mean, like, it happens to be a problem that was out of our control, but every day in real estate and business, there's problems. An employee quits, a customer gets mad, marketing stops working. You just have to fix problems in order to win in business. So it's just a problem. And you have to forecast, like you said, of where you think this is going to go. It's hard to say. Personally, I would be hard to believe that there's much more interest rate hikes coming. I think we're going to probably kind of cap out here pretty soon, and the hope is that they start lowering again.
Yeah, you get a lot of points, and again, I know a lot of guys are watching you, and they're really just waiting for every word to come out of your mouth. Having gone through COVID, having been in multifamily for 15 years, you never saw what happened in COVID so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's similar to what's going on now 2 years later. And what I've learned here is what goes up that fast can go down that fast.
Right.
And when GC was here with us recently, he was filming his show. I know he filmed it there with you as well. And he brought me on, and we made a bet. We made a $10,000 bet. And I'm not going to make that bet with you because I'm still getting to know you, right? But he made a bet with me. He goes, this was Halloween. Where do you think rates will be 1 year from today? This is October 31st. So it was a couple weeks ago. I said, they're going to be up, Grant. He goes like, no, they'll be down. And we shook on it, whatever. So are you thinking that rates will be down 1 year from today?
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, optimistically, I hope so. But even too, I just don't think that, if they're not, I mean, here's the deal. If they are not, then basically everyone's screwed. That's what's going to happen. So, if you know that going in mind, then you can't believe that the government is going to allow that to happen. And when I say everyone's screwed, I'm not saying that, housing definitely will go down. But the tech companies and stocks and everything will continue to get crushed. People will therefore be laid off. And so it's just it causes the chain effect of a very deep depression. And to this point, the government has tried to avoid depressions at all costs. So, we will see. But my bet would be on not having a depression because there will be intervention before.
It's funny. Well, intervention, that's the key word in there, right? See, when I was in 08, 09, 2010, during the recession, there was no intervention. Everybody was on their own. What was happening, everybody as a whole. And you feel that COVID felt very intervention. And you felt that what's going on right now is intervention. There's a lot of raising of rates without even looking. We're going to go this much. You're just not even looking around. So you mentioned a key word, depression. Some people went straight to economic. Other people went straight to themselves. And it made me want to share a little saying somebody shared with me recently. It's depression is in the past, anxiety is in the future, but the peace is found in the present. And I was like, wow, I've been repeating that over and over because it just left such an impact on me. And I think you're right. We can worry about whatever, but that's where the anxiety, that's what gets you. Or you can think about what happened, how it was in the past, and how things were different or better or whatever, 2020 vision there. But really the peace is in today. So just work on it well. One final question on this point, then I wanted to move on, because I know a lot of guys are facing this too. I'm getting investor emails, and they want me to have a crystal ball. They want me to tell them what's going to happen. They want me to make them feel better. And it's like, we've done so well, and then now all of a sudden, they're afraid because we got negative cash flow or we have no cash flow and all the cash is going to the bank. How have you communicated that messaging with your investors, hey, this, like you said, some are going to make a lot of money, some may not. How are you helping to help them balance it out?
At the end of the day, right, I think most savvy investors understand the predicament we're in. So it's like, look, it doesn't matter what you would have invested in at this point. You could have bought crypto, stocks, real estate, whatever, right? At the end of the day, a year ago, they look very different today. And the one that has been resilient the most is real estate. So you picked a good horse that, even if it does go down, you're in a much better, horse than what you picked back then or what you could have picked. Right. So, the other part of it is with real estate, as long as you just ride it out, you're always good. It's always going to go up in the long haul. There will become a point to lower rates and refinance or whatever the case is. So it's just patience. And a lot of people don't want to hear it. But it's not my problem. This is what it is. That I say that word a lot because it's I have nothing it is what it is. We didn't know what we know a year ago, right? It is what it is. So all we can do is just deal with it going forward.
There you go. Pieces in the present.
Yeah.
Stop worrying about the past. Stop worrying about the future. Just focus on right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be conscious of your time, Ryan. I really appreciate you being with us. Just 2 points. Tell me a little bit about your multifamily. I know you've really got into that very recently, and tell us about your acquisitions. Like, how many have you had now? Where are you sourcing your capital? How's it going for you?
Yeah, we have, I want to say like 530 under management, 530 units. I started the fund last year, and so it's been going great.
Good.
Obviously it's harder to raise money today than it was a year ago,
Yeah.
but it's good. I mean, we're always looking for deals. Thus far, everything has really been from just social media. So deal flow, people send us deals every day. When we do have a deal, we start raising capital for it on social media and everything else. And, we've been able to acquire a lot of real estate in a very short amount of time.
And if people want to invest with you, Ryan, how do they find you?
PinedaCapital.com. Yep.
There you
So
go.
that's our fund. What I will say is, you learn things quick as you go through business. So, the first 500 plus units we've bought have been, C and B class units, and a lot of them need a lot of work, right? And so I'm realizing like the amount of headache that goes with these units. We're going to get them done, and it's fine. But going forward, you start to look and analyze why people do what they do, and you're like, why does Grant buy a class? Why do the funds buy a class? And you start to say, well, I kind of get it now. They don't want to deal with the headache that C has, right? And C might have bigger upside, but with bigger upside, there's always bigger risk, and there's a lot more work to get there. And for us, the thing I've realized is like, yep, we need to pretty much just stick with B and A class properties, and follow what the guys who've been doing it way longer than me do, because there's a reason they do it.
That's a great point, and this is for everybody watching. Most people start out in B and C because that's what they can afford.
Right.
You can't afford the big class A. So you buy that, and yeah, there is upside, but you're going to have to get boots in the ground, knee deep in it. You're going to have to work it. Real estate's easy. People are difficult, and so you, you have to understand you're very, very intensive. And I know in my own career, the last 24 months, we've transitioned away from B and C and now buying A deals. This last 12 months, we bought a $70 million deal, a $66 million deal, a $45 million deal. And I'll tell you what, the deals are the most stable are those class A deals. Minimal rehab. It's just really focusing on operations, focusing on keeping heads in beds, reading resident reviews. What can I do to make that experience whole? And delinquency is much lower, whole lot better than the B and C where you're having to do all of this work, and then the resident is still, the qualification is still very, iffy and problematic. So it sounds like you're making that transition where, like, what does Blackstone buy? What does Grant Cardone buy? Yeah, they buy the nice stuff and they don't really worry about it right now. So that's a good point. I want to end on this, Ryan, because I know family is so important in this. And the most successful groups that I've seen are the ones where there is either a strong team together, but I'm not a big fan of partnerships unless it's your wife or your husband. And I've seen those teams do really, really well. I've got a good buddy of mine, Gabe. He used to be at Cardone Capital, and now he's got his own group or his own company. And his wife is like, she's the one doing the videos. She's the one doing, like, the captions. And you just see it, and it's just like, it's amazing. They're growing together. How important, how critical has your wife been in this? And to end that, could you be at the success level you're at today if you did not have a wife? Could you be single, be a 33-year-old guy, and still have hit the level you're at?
There's a funny story with this. So I don't even know where I saw this meme or this like story go, but there's a story that goes, you got this executive and his wife, they're going to her 10-year or whatever 20-year high school reunion, and you're going through it, and she says, oh man, like that guy over there, the janitor, that was my ex-boyfriend in high school. He's the janitor now. And the husband says, aren't you glad that you married me? And she's like, no, aren't you glad you married me? Because if not, you would have been the janitor. So that's kind of the running joke of how our relationship goes. But, I was broke when I married my wife, and I've done pretty well since. She has been there to support me every step of the way. You know, if I wanted to max out her credit cards, she was game. If I wanted to go start making YouTube videos, she helped me edit them. You know, if I wanted to open up a new company, she was in it. So she's always been there from a support system and always, you know, kind of giving me anything that I ever needed. You know, she's a stay-at-home mom with our 2 kids right now, and she's doing an amazing job holding that down. And ironically, you know, she's been there to support every idea I've ever had, right? Like I've been the visionary. And, you know, she now wants to start a business. She wants to have a clothing brand. And so it's going to be fun working together on that, because that's the one where like this is her baby and what she's passionate about and what she really wants to drive. So however I can support her on that is going to be fun. But to answer your question, would I be where I'm at today? No. And people say, well, you could just worked more and did this. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, here's the truth. The fact that I don't, you know, that I have balance is the reason for my success.
Man, I think it's very impactful. And I want to just definitely give this a moment because I think it's so important when I watch these people, you know, even my own success in the very beginning, you know, you have that spouse that's there, you know, when they're not there, you notice it. You know,
Yep.
and there's nobody there to watch your 6. There's nobody there to double check, you know, and triple check things and to bounce ideas off of and to just make sure, you know, that they ultimately have you, you know, a woman who's going to be with you when you're broke and poor is going to be with you when you're rich and successful. But you know, she's there for the right reasons. You know, I watch Albert Preciado in California with his wife Sylvia, and you see how strong they are together. You see, you know, you see Hormozy and his wife Lele. You know, you see now Grant, and you've seen that whole story. You know, the reason why Grant's a billionaire is because Elena encouraged him. You know, and it's a very impactful moment if you watch that video. And you know, even Bradley's got his wife at home, and she's taking care and holding down the fort. And you see them doing so well. You know, most of these guys that have hit that level of success, they're not these swinging bachelors. They figured it out. They have somebody at home, you know. So thank you for sharing that. I think that's great for all the spouses, you know, because they do bring so much value that is sometimes easy to see and sometimes you don't see it. It's behind the curtain. And it's almost like the Wizard of Oz, right? Pay no attention to the person behind the curtain, but in reality, that's who's keeping Oz going, you know.
Yep.
And so it's amazing. Ryan, thank you so much. It's been great. I'm glad this is our first introduction together and get a chance to visit with you. I'd love to invite you to our mastermind in January, you know, where we're going to talk about multifamily and operations and scaling. So if you have time, January 25th through 27th, please come on by. Even if it's just for a day, I'd love to have you out there with us. But how can people get a hold of you, Ryan? How do they find out more about your education?
Yeah, I think just go to ryanpineda.com. You can see all the companies and yeah, I appreciate you having me on, man.
We had a good time out. I'm sorry, Alex. We had a good time, Ryan. Thank you so much. Had a good. I was thinking of Hormozy. Had a great time with you today, and I learned a lot from you. My team's all here. You can't see them, but I want to thank them as well for putting this on. I was a little worried we weren't going to start. I was like, oh my God, did Ryan not confirm? Where's he at? But you know, we're good to go. I actually had gone to my desk like, God, it didn't happen. So thank you for reaching back out and being here with us. We had a really good time and very informative. So enjoy the rest of your day, man.